This will demonstrate how to use formulas and functions in a spreadsheet software. I've got a file open here, and what I'm using is Microsoft Excel. This is Excel 2013. I use the Excel as a tool to demonstrate spreadsheet features. There's several different spreadsheet softwares available, but this particular one is Microsoft Excel. What a spreadsheet is, it allows you to do numerical analysis, calculations. The whole emphasis on spreadsheets is numbers and calculations. So I'm going to show you how to use formulas and functions, which are the most common features in spreadsheets. So just as a scenario, we have here two people, Amanda and Joseph, and what they're doing is, you can see under expenses, they're renting their house and they feel like they want to buy a house. They want to see if they make enough money to buy a house. So we're going to do a budget for them, and we've taken all the income for 12 months here for Amanda and Joseph. And what we can do here, just to show you what we call the fill handle feature in Excel and in a spreadsheet, your work area is divided into cells. You know, like in Word, when you open a word processing document, it's just a blank document. These are called cells. Each cell is designated by the intersection of a row and a column. All columns are designated by alpha characters. All rows are designated by numbers. And so the intersection of the row and the column is the name of a cell. So in this case, I happen to be in cell F3. If you look up here in this name box, when you point to it, the screen tip comes up and says name box. It will tell you what cell you're in. So let's go to cell B5, and what we're going to type in is January, and hit your enter key. And this particular spreadsheet software, when you hit the enter key, it goes down to the cell below it. Some, when you hit enter, it goes to the cell beside it to the right. So, you know, that's just the subtle differences between different spreadsheet software. Okay, in cell B5, we typed in January. There's a feature called the fill handle, and what it does is it fills in information for you. So I don't want to have to type in February, March, etc. At the bottom right corner of cell B5, there's a little square there. When you move your mouse and point to it, the shape becomes a black plus sign. If you hold your left mouse button down and drag to the right to column M, it will fill in my months for me. So this is called a fill handle, and it fills in a series. Okay, what we need to do here in cell B8 is we need to calculate the total income for Amanda and Joseph for January. And what we're going to do is we're going to get their detailed information, all their income and expenses for 12 months. We're going to come down here and do a summary for them. And then we're going to jump over to this loan analysis sheet. Now, in Excel, when you first open Excel, a document, it's called a workbook because it consists of many different sheets. And so at the bottom here is your sheet tab, and you can go back and forth between sheets. So in cell B8, I want to put in a formula. The difference between a formula and a function is a formula is a calculation you manually type in, where a function is a formula, but it's already built into the system. It comes with the software product. So in cell B8, we're going to type in a formula that will add up the total income for Amanda and Joseph for January. All formulas and functions start with the equal sign. So we type in an equal sign. Then we want to click on the cell, the first cell that we want added, which would be cell B6. Type in a plus sign. And click on the next cell that we want added. And in this case, it's B7. And you can see my formula, and this is called the formula bar up here, is actually equals B6 plus B7. That's the calculation for the total income for January from Amanda and Joseph is the two cells, the values that are in the cells represented as B6 and B7. So just hit your enter key. Now go back and click on cell B8 again. On the bottom right corner, this is a little square, you have your fill handle. Point to it. Make sure that your pointer changes to the black plus sign. If it's any other shape, if it changes to a shape with a plus sign with arrows pointing up, down, left, and right, that means you're moving it. You want to do the fill handle. It has to be a black plus sign. Hold your left mouse button down, drag all the way across to column M and let go. And what it does is it fills in that formula, and it fills it in relative to the column we're in. So when you're looking here at cell B8, all I see is $3,250. I really don't know if that's a value in there or a formula. The only way to know is click on that cell, and up here in the formula bar you can see what is actually in that cell as a formula. But notice when we did the fill handle, I'm going to hit my arrow over to the right, going to go to C8. Notice how the formula changed from B6 plus B7 to C6 plus C7. If I go over to D, the C's changed to a D. If I go to column E, so when you fill it, it's not a pure copy, it's called a relative copy. It copies that formula across, but changes it relative to the column you're in. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for expenses. Now in B8, what we did was a formula because we manually typed it in. I'm going to delete those out. And the reason you see these cells highlighted in yellow, I highlighted the cells that we were going to put formulas or functions in. Typically it's going to be all white. I just wanted, it was just easier to see. Okay, on cell B22, click on it to make it active. And what we're going to do is add up all the expenses. I don't want to do a formula where I type in an equal sign, click on the 850, type in a plus sign, click on the 607. There's too many values there. So there is a function already built into this particular spreadsheet software that will sum for us. You know, that's a very common calculation you're going to do in a spreadsheet is addition. So that is one function that's already built in. So on your home tab, in the editing group, you have a button called Auto Sum. If you click on it, it comes in here and it says equals sum, and then it has in parentheses B11 colon B21. It's going to guess to its best ability what values you want added. And this time it's guessing correctly. So the colon in there where it says B11 colon B21, the colon represents a range. That means the cells in between B11 and B22 inclusive, including B11 and B21. So all you have to do now is hit your enter key. Now we're going to go back again to B22, find that fill handle, hold that left mouse button down and drag across. And you see here, up here, this is B11 to B21. Notice in C, it changed the B's to C, etc. So there again, it copies it, but it copies it relative. Net income, so B24 is your total income minus your total expenses. So that's just two cells. We just need to, so we're going to do a formula. We're going to manually type this in. So all formulas and functions start with equal sign. So type in an equal sign. Click on cell B8, which represents the total income. Type in a minus sign, which is a hyphen. Click on cell B22, which represents total expenses, and hit enter. Now go back and make B24 your active cell. Find that fill handle and fill it across. Now we want to do a running total. A running total is, I mean, if you look at the expenses, obviously someone's going to school because we have a tuition expense and book expense in January and in August. The rest of the time that expense doesn't exist. So you can see in January they have a negative income because that tuition, you know, kind of hurts them there. So a running total is, you know, this is just the net income for January. This is just the net income for February. This is just the net income for March. I want to see as we progress through each one of these months at the end of the year, what is our net income? So what I want is in C25, I want by the end of February, what is our net income, which means you have to add up B24 and C24. In cell D25, the net income here doing a running total would be January, February, and March all added together. And April would be the first 4 months added together. So this is a running total. So by the end of each month, where do I stand? Okay, so what I want to do is sum or add B24 and C24. So I'm just going to go up here on the Home tab in the Editing group and click the Auto Sum button. It's guessing wrong, so it's just guessing the cell above it. So I have to tell it the correct range, and how you do that is you select the cells that you want added. So I want B24 and C24, so I'm going to just make sure your pointer is that white plus sign or that white cross, whatever you want to call it. Left click, hold that mouse button down over B24 and drag across to C24 and let go. It selects the range, and you can see here it says B24 colon C24 and hit enter. Now if we go back to C24 and take that fill handle across and do a spot check, this value is right, but right here, notice it changed my B here to a C. Then it changed in E25 it to D and E. All it's doing is adding these two. January and February are represented by the negative 973, but the 1,550 is actually February and March. I want it as a running total. I never want this B24 to change. So throughout all of these formulas here, that B24 needs to stay absolute. So the fill handle there, it's fine to use, but if you need to keep a cell reference absolute, static, so it doesn't change, what I have to do here is up in the formula bar, just point my I-beam right over the B24, double click, it selects it, hit the F4 key on my keyboard, and what it does, it will put in a $sign in front of the B and a $sign in front of the 24. And what that means, it's absolute. It will not change it. So right over here, I can click this plus sign, the check mark. It enters it into the cell. And now, and all that means is absolute. When we copied or did the fill handles up here, it copied relative, meaning it constantly changed the columns indicators, the C to the D to an E. I don't want that B to change. So right now when I take the fill handle and I fill it across, notice here in this formula, and I'm just going to go to the right through each cell, that B24 never changes. So when I spot check and add these three, that's the correct value. I need to add all four of the first 4 months. Running income should then be 664. Then January through May, those 5 values there, when I add them up, should be 1,480, and they are correct. So by the end of the year, even though I have a negative net income in January and again in August, overall, I end up with a net income of $6,396 by the end of the year. Okay, so we've done the details. Let's get to the yearly summary, because what we need to do in order to help Amanda and Joseph decide how expensive of a house they can afford, we're going to have to work with their averages. We need the average for all 12 months. So there again, we're going to do the total, average, min, and max just to understand functions. Okay, so I need Amanda's total income for the entire year. So click in cell B30. We already know how to use the sum function. So on the Home tab in the Editing group, click on the Auto Sum button. It comes in and it's taking a guess and it's incorrect. It's not guessing right, so we have to go select the range. And in this case, Amanda's total income for the entire year is represented by the range B6 to M6. So I'm going to click on cell B6. There again, to select it, make sure it's that white arrow, the white plus sign. Left click, hold that mouse button down, drag all the way over to M6 and hit enter. Now I'm going to do her average. Totals or summations, averages, min and max are very common functions. That's something you do a lot with numbers. So on the home tab in the editing group where the auto sum button is, we also have that drop down arrow right next to where it says auto sum. In there is also the average function, the min, the max, and there's more functions I can get to, but these are the most common ones, so they are in this drop down arrow next to that auto sum button. So let's select average, and we want Amanda's average income for the year. Her income for the year, there again, is represented by the cells B6 to M6. So I'm going to select the range B6 to M6, and I'm going to hit enter. Let's do her minimum. So in cell D30, I'm going to come up here to the auto sum. I'm going to drop down the arrow, and I'm going to go to the min function, and it's Amanda's minimum income. Amanda's income is represented there again by the range B6 to M6. Hit enter. And we're going to do the max. So in cell E30, I'm going to click the drop down arrow on my auto sum button. I'm going to go to the max function. I'm going to select Amanda's range that represents her income for all 12 months. That is B6 to M6, and I'm going to hit enter. Now, there again, using that fill handle, that fill handle will save you so much time and trouble. We're going to select all 4 cells that have the calculations for Amanda's total, average, min, and max. So I'm just going to left click on cell B30, hold my mouse button down, drag all the way to E30. And notice I have all 4 cells selected. Notice I only have one fill handle. I'm going to point to that fill handle, make sure that pointer changes to a black plus sign, and drag down 1 row. And now I have Joseph's total, average, min, and max income. And I can check that by looking at the formula for Joseph, which is B31. It's the sum of B7. Joseph is on row B7 to M7. His average, there's the average function. It's his B7 to M7. Same with the min and same with the max. It copied it relative. It went from Amanda's row to the 6. When we copied it down, it changed from a 6 to a 7. And now we're going to do the total income, that total average income, the min and max. So all we're going to do here is, let's do a formula this time just to keep it different. To do the total, since there's only 2 cells, the easiest way is just to manually type in a formula. All formulas and functions start with an equal sign, so type in equal sign. Click on the first cell you want added, which is Amanda's total income, B30. Type in a plus sign. Click on Joseph's total income, which is B31, and hit your enter key. Go back to cell B32 now that has the total, and we're going to total it all the way across so that we have the total average, total minimum, total max. We're going to take that fill handle and drag it across for the average, min, and max of Amanda. Now we want to do the total expenses, so let's do the rent row, and then we're going to fill it down just like we did for Amanda and Joseph. So in cell B35, we want the total rent. So on the home tab at editing group, click on the auto sum button. It's guessing the wrong range. Rent is represented by the range B11 to M11. So we're going to select the range B11 to M11. Hit enter. We're going to do the average rent. So in cell C35, we're going to click the drop down arrow next to auto sum. We're going to select the average function, and we're going to select the range that represents the rent for the 12 months, which is B11 to M11. Hit enter. The minimum rent, we're going to drop down the arrow on the auto sum. We're going to go to the min function. We're going to select the range that represents rent, B11 to M11. Hit enter, and we're going to do the same for the max. Click the drop down arrow on the auto sum button. Select the max function. There again, it's guessing the wrong range, so we have to select the range for the rent for all 12 months, and that would be B11 to M11, and hit enter. Now we have all of the formulas for rent, so now all we have to do is select all 4 of those cells for rent, take the fill handle, the little square on the bottom right corner, and fill it all the way down to books, and we have that fast. We have all the expenses totaled, averaged, min, and max. Okay, so let's do the total now. For the total expenses, since there's so many cells to add, let's not manually type in a formula because it will take a long time. We're going to come up here and use the auto sum function. So editing group, just click on the auto sum button. It's guessing the wrong range, so we have to select just the expenses. And that is represented by the range B35. So click in cell B35, hold that mouse button down and drag all the way down to B45 and hit enter. And let's go ahead and total all the expenses, total the average, total the min, and total the max. So on cell B46, take that fill handle, hold the left mouse button down and drag all the way across to get the total average, the total for the min, and the total for the max. Now, just like up here, we've already done net income. Net income is your total income minus your total expenses. So it's just subtracting 2 cells. So let's just do a formula. We're just going to manually type this in. So all formulas and functions start with the equal sign. Type in the equal sign. Click on the cell that represents the total income, which is cell B32. Type in a minus sign, which is represented by a hyphen. Click on the cell that represents the total expenses, which would be B46, and hit enter. Now go ahead and select cell B46. Take the fill handle on cell B46, make sure it's that black plus sign, and fill across to the average, the min, and the max. And we have our values in. Now what we have to do now to help Amanda and Joseph decide how expensive of a house they can afford is using the average calculations we have here. We're going to copy and paste them over here and put in the payment calculations for, like right now they're looking at a $150,000 house. The bank told them that they could have a loan for 30 years at 4.5 annual interest rate. They want to make a monthly payment, so they will be making 12 payments per year. So go back to your budget sheet, and how you change sheets is you just on the bottom, just click on the sheet tab, and we're going to select the average values. So we're going to select the range C30 just down to C45, and we're going to copy them. So on your home tab in the clipboard group, you can click the copy button, or you can just right click anywhere in here and click copy, or you can do a Control-C to copy, whichever method you want. You can tell it's copied because it has the rotating border around it. Now click on the loan analysis sheet and just click in cell B4. That's the first cell that we want this value to come in. You don't have to select the whole range. All you have to do is be in that first cell. Now we're going to paste this, and the problem's going to be is I'm just going to do a straightforward paste. You're going to see that it's going to be an error. If I just paste it, I get a reference error because it's referencing another sheet. What I have to do here to fix this error is you have to, on their home tab in the clipboard group, click the drop down arrow, go down to the bottom where it says Paste Special, and in your Paste Special dialog box, what you want to do in the Paste section is click the values and number formats, and then click OK, and I have the values come in. Now we want to go ahead in cell B6 and adjust this. All it is a value up here. We want to put the total calculation in there. So if we would want to change Amanda or Joseph's values up here without having a formula in cell B6, if we change Amanda's value or Joseph's for their income, then the total will not change unless we have a formula in it. So let's go ahead and fix that total by typing in a formula. So I'm going to type in equal sign. I'm going to click on cell B4. I'm going to now type in a plus sign. I'm going to click on B5 and hit enter. Same for the total expenses. Let's go ahead and put a calculation. Let's make sure we put a formula in here. So we're going to go on the Home tab in the Editing group and click on the Auto Sum button. It's guessing the right range, so just hit Enter. And for net income, let's go ahead and put a calculation there. So net income is equals, type in equal sign. Click on cell B6, which is the total income. Type in a minus sign, which is a hyphen. And click on the cell that represents the total expenses, which is B20, and hit Enter. Okay, now to figure out how expensive of a house they can afford. There's a function in this spreadsheet software called payment that will calculate payments. One thing it needs to know, and I'm going to show you how, if you know this function, you understand it, we need to know the total number of payments. If we don't do it here, there's a way around it, so I'm going to show you both ways. In order to get the total payments is equal to the length of the loan times how many payments you're making per year. Okay, so in cell E10, this is just going to be a formula. We've got to multiply two cells together. All formulas and functions start with equal signs. Type in equal sign. Click on the length of the loan, which is represented by E5. Type in an asterisk, which represents multiplication. And then if it's 30 years and we're making one payment per month, that's the 12. That would be 12 payments per year. Now we have to click on cell E9. So we have the total number of years times how many payments per year, and hit Enter. So you have 360 payments total. Now payment amount. This is where we're going to find a function that will calculate a loan payment. What we can do up here on your formula bar, you have this f of x. It says insert function. Click on it and you have a search box. So what I'm going to do is type in, if I don't know what the particular function's called, I'm just going to type in search for a loan payment. I'm going to click on go. It's going to make some suggestions here. So the first one that comes up, it says PMT. Calculates the payment for a loan based on constant payments. It is. We're doing, one payment per month and a constant interest rate. We have it. That's great. That's what we want. So the PMT, so just click OK. And you have a dialog box. We'll talk you through everything. Make sure you read the bottom here. It wants the interest rate, but it wants the interest rate per period. So for example, if you have a 6% annual interest rate and you're making quarterly payments, you've got to divide that 6% annual interest rate by how many payments you're making a year. And in that case is 4. So in our case, our interest rate is 4.5%. So click on cell E6 that represents the annual interest rate. But we have to now type in a / to divide it by 12 because we want the interest rate per period. And we're making one payment per month. So we have to divide it by 12. The IMPER, when you click on it, read it down here, is the total number of payments for the loan. That's why we did that calculation in cell E10. So, and notice how here, it's showing you the calculation. This is your interest rate per period, total payments 360. Had I not done that calculation in cell E10, I could have easily done it here. I could have easily clicked on E5, typed in an asterisk, and clicked on E9, notice 360. So either way, you can do the calculation here, or I knew in advance I was going to need that. All I have to do is click on cell E10, or even type it in. And PV is the present value, the total amount of the loan. So that is in cell E4. So click on E4. And we have everything in there. Click OK. Now the payment function in Excel returns it as a negative value. So we want to fix that. We want it to be as a positive value. So when you click on cell E11, up here in your formula bar, click between the equal sign and the uppercase P and type in a hyphen. So what we got is 2 negatives equal a positive. Click on the check mark to enter it, and I have $760. What we want to do is see how this payment affects our net income. So right here in cell B9, now the house payment B9, notice it went from rent over here, we called it rent, to house payment. I need this cell to always refer to whatever this payment is, because we're going to look at different priced houses. So in cell B9, type in equal sign, then click on cell E11 and hit enter. So whatever E11 is, it will change this house payment, this cell, every time. Calculated savings. Here's where we want to know if the loan is affordable. Amanda says that she's got to have $500 in savings, so at the end of each month, she's got to have $500 left over, or she won't buy the house. I mean, $500, you never know when you're going to have to buy new tires, washer, dryer, or refrigerator. So, you know, she will not buy the house unless they do have $500 at the end of each month left over. So on calculated savings, your calculated savings is whatever you have left over each month. Now, this is just the average for all 12 months. So the net income is, on an average for the whole year, $623. So what we want this calculated savings always to refer to B22. So with E15 active, whatever B22 is, we always want that to be the same value in our calculated savings. So type in equal sign, click on cell B22 and hit enter. Our conclusion is going to be, we're going to use a logical if statement. And we're going to have the test condition that if the calculated savings is greater than the required, then yes, we can buy the house. If not, no. So another way to look at formulas is, we saw all the ones that were on the auto sum here. We saw how to click on the f of x and search for one. You also have the options to, on your formulas tab, so up here, you have tons of functions in all of these. Just, I mean, math and trig, you can go all day. What we're going to do is a logical if. So I'm going to click on the logical functions. It's called an if. I'm going to click on it. We have a dialog box. So what's the test? The first thing is the logical test, the expression that we want. And the test is if cell E15, which represents our calculated savings, so click on it, is greater than, type in a greater than symbol. If it's greater than our required, which is 500, so just click on the cell that represents the calculated savings, which is E4. Then if it's true, then yes, they can afford the house. If it's false, then no. We want no to appear, they can't afford it. Okay, so click OK. Right now, the $150,000 house, say it's a 2-bedroom starter house, yes, they can afford it. They're also looking at a $200,000 house that has a swimming pool. So click up here in cell E4 and let's change the loan amount to $200,000. There again, the house with the swimming pool. Hit enter and look, no, can't afford it. They're also looking at a $175,000 house that has 3 bedrooms and a garage. So let's see, can they afford a $175,000 house? Change the loan amount to $175,000. Hit enter and no. But if you look at the difference here, it's only a $4 difference. Maybe one of them, whoever's going to school here, is about to graduate and they think, okay, that's probably a better deal. Not too sure. But anyway, just a quick way of, you know, using some kind of meaningful information and showing you how you can use formulas and functions in spreadsheets.